Hi everyone, welcome to Live and Livy to Local podcast, a retro gaming podcast for some of your retro gaming needs. My name is Fazz.
And I'm Rich.
And this is the second episode of our special month, that made it sound like it was a special month where we all hold each other, of hashtag Drive January. We start
Still trying to go for the hashtag,
no, well, I don't. Well, do we just say Drive January then? Do we lose the hashtag part of it?
Yeah.
I mean, do you know what? It genuinely has become something that I like. So clearly, no one's going to use that fucking hashtag.
No.
And so I used it again for the first time in a year, and it was like it comes up on the bottom of Instagram and sort of says, "Oh, this has been used in 15 posts recently." Oh, previously, and I was like, "All right, okay," but obviously they're all my posts.
Oh,
It's in look, I will drop the hashtag, but I genuinely think it's in my sort of soul now, so I'll it's gonna have to work its way out. It's in
you just get it on a t-shirt.
Yeah, and merchandise. That'd be the last bit of fucking merchandise, right? But I am gonna now think of merch.
Just get it in Comic Sans. To really drive home.
It's so funny you just mentioned that because it really relates to a game that I'm playing in a few months' time.
Oh, in a few months?
Yeah. No, okay. A game I'm playing right now for a podcast in a couple of months' time. And I was like, oh, that was awesome. Right, okay, cool. But to people listening to an audio format of me going, ooh, there you go. One thing I would say about the Drive January situation is that it is noted how many people that I speak to who are lovely, who listen to the podcast and say that they listen to us in a car, usually, which obviously makes sense. I'd say most podcasts, me personally, I would listen to when I'm driving. So it's nice, genuinely thinking about it out loud, it is nice that we are currently, right now, as I'm speaking, sharing a journey with somebody somewhere.
Yeah, that's technically probably true.
Don't fucking crash it! No, it's fine, it's okay. You'll be okay.
Good grief, that made me jump. If it made me jump and I'm sat opposite you, I shudder to think what just happened.
Would I be arrested for a crime for doing that if I've just called someone to crash?
Well, I tell you what, we will soon find out, won't we? Jesus, wet Fazz.
Sorry.
What's wrong with you, man?
Yeah, what is wrong with me? I'm really sorry. I'm constantly apologising to people at work for things that are just wrong with me.
Do you just shout at them out of the blue?
Kind of, probably, yeah. That is, and my house did. And now on the podcast of things that are wrong with me. So yeah, there's another one. Right, okay. So you're going to hit tears off again with some F-Zero GX this time. I'm interested to hear about this because I kind of got a distinct feeling that this wasn't, well, as you said it out loud, this wasn't necessarily up there with F-Zero X, but I kind of thought that it might be because it's really well regarded as well. Yeah. So tell me why it maybe isn't just...
Tell me why I don't like GX. No, that's not true. I do. More F-Zero. Good. Would like more F-Zero. Had more F-Zero since 2003, I guess.
Yeah.
Very-ish.
So they did
probably something on the Game Boy Advance that I'm forgetting about. But
that actually,
a couple, wasn't there? But I should have looked that up.
No. I mean, it's fine.
We're here now, aren't we? Yeah.
That F-Zero 99 came out on the Switch, didn't it?
That's true, but does that count? Because that's a remix of the SNES one, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not. It's definitely not a mainline.
Thing.
And did it cost me money? I can't remember. Maybe it cost a few quid.
It cost me money.
Do you remember when we went down to Hossa Brewery and we had it on? It was on the big screen. It was quite nice.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, that was quite fun for a while.
Yeah.
But that is not enough F-Zero. That's not acceptable.
So this was 2003. This one came out, which is a fair old time ago now, isn't it? And two things came to mind when I realised that. First was, holy hell, how does it look this good after it was only 5 years after F-Zero X on the N64?
And
how that looked.
When you say it like that.
Yeah. And then also, holy hell, how does it look this good and it's 20 odd years old? Holy hell, it looks good.
Yeah.
It looks really good. And this is going to be interesting because talking of going on journeys, Can
I ask? Sorry, I did not ask in the last episode, but it's kind of like a counterpart episode anyway. What were you playing F-Zero X on just the N64?
So it was the N64 cartridge, but on the Analogue 3D.
Yeah.
Which is how come it was very easy to see the joins when various polygons
see what I'm trying to do to you
around.
here. How well is your voice, and how much are you willing to talk about the Analogue 3D yet? I'm still trying to get you, because I think there'll be a lot of people out there that'll be interested to know.
Yeah, all right.
Yay!
Okay, so
like me, I'm
short
interested
version.
to know.
It's very good. I'm very impressed with it.
You sound it.
No, I am. The problem is, and I think I can't remember which reviewer said it, and I wish I could because they were bang on the money. In fact, it was probably a couple of places. Let's be honest. But effectively, the big problem is the N64 games themselves, and how they're put together graphically and all that kind of stuff. Like, it's very easy now to see the joins in a lot of places and odd textures and things like that. So the Analogue 3D does a bang up job of tidying things up to a point, but it can only do it to a point.
Yeah.
It's got a lot of cool features on it. It's got a lot of other features that I think are going to get added in future firmware updates, which, you know, in the year of our Lord 2026 is kind of expected, but at the same time, for what is effectively an update of a however many year old console, feels a little bit like, could it not have just done everything out of the box?
Yeah, could it not shipped with it?
Yeah, but then I guess it was delayed as it was and all that kind of stuff. So I imagine there's all sorts of interesting shenanigans at work.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it's I've not had an analog thing before from them, and the box, the console itself, the way it's all put together is all very, very sleek and nice and premium. You had to order the controller separately, but it's an 8-bit do, which however we're saying it.
8-bit do, yeah.
So, and I've always liked them.
Oh wait, no.
Personally.
Is it a do or a do? It
know.
doesn't really matter.
Oh,
I do not know. Yeah, and do not know.
But yeah, like it's good stuff, and it's nice to play it without feeling like I'm looking at it through dirty glasses constantly, which I have perennially dirty glasses. Yeah. So, you know, looking at a blurry ass N64 screen blown up to HD was doing me no favors. So yeah, like it's I'm impressed by it, but at the same time I'm kind of like, I haven't sunk enough time into it to like really feel like I've had my socks blown off.
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of telling that between that landing and I picked up a RetroTink 5X a little while back as well.
Okay.
And I've had more use out of the RetroTink and just plugging stuff into that. With the notable exception being that my N64, because it was a PAL one, was just never going to look good through it, and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, the Analogue was still a decent purchase for that. So I imagine that it's the kind of thing that, like, if you are in the part of the world or parts of the world where you can easily mod an N64 or get it spruced up and looking good through a RetroTink, you're probably going to get less mileage out of an analog thing.
Yeah, okay.
If you're in a PAL territory and, you know, those kind of consoles that are going to be trickier to mod or you can't get hold of them, I think it's a bit of a better purchase personally.
Yeah.
But ultimately, still very extravagant, frivolous, whatever. Like compared to like Switch Online and stuff like that, you probably get a decent amount of use out of something like that. I'm enjoying playing stuff without much input lag. Yeah, that's quite nice.
But that's the thing, though, isn't it? That is, you say it's frivolous, but at the same time, that is in, you know, you play a lot of. Well, sorry, you play a lot of N64 games, but I can imagine that you do and would enjoy doing it. And you know, if you can get them at the best quality that is available to you, more power to you, really. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know?
Yeah, and I think in theory, I would play a lot of N64 games, but then when I was starting to play Mega Drive games again, I went back to a lot of them and were like, oh wow, yeah, this is still great. And the N64 games that I've played so far, I've gone back to a lot of them and I've gone like, I'm not sure this is as good as I remember it.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I'm kind of I'm waiting to find the game that persuades me to keep the Analogue 3D plugged into my TV all the time, rather than just digging it out to play it occasionally.
Yeah.
You know, I'm waiting for that kind of 1 month stretch of playing things on it where I'm just like, no, this needs to stay here.
It's No Mercy, isn't it? Is that not the game? Feels like it might be the game.
Yeah, it would be. Yeah, and it nearly was. But I'm like, oh, I've got to play other things for the podcast because Drive January's coming up. So yeah,
all right, you need to say it like that. Oh, I see how it is.
But
the tone,
you know, you are preventing me from playing No Mercy. Yes, that is true. Yes, and unfortunately, now the background music from the friggin' main menu on No Mercy is now stuck in my head.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Diggity dog. So yeah. Anyway,
apologies. I just wanted to tease out a little bit of what it had been like so far for the first couple of months of having that, and not like a full review or anything, but just sort of like how you feeling about it.
Yeah, the short version is that I've not had as much use out of it as I'd have liked.
Yeah,
and that is mainly down to what I've been trying to play on it. F-Zero definitely was one of the ones that got the most like bang for buck, and all that kind of stuff so far. And I'll tell you what, actually, from what I've played, like Quake and Hexen are probably the ones that will be the ones that I go back to pretty soon.
Yeah,
maybe Duke Nukem.
Yeah.
Duke. So like
the Duke, definitely.
Yeah, like those sorts of things. But I need to make a point of sitting and actually going through various bits of my collection. Although Mystical Ninja starring Goemon and stuff like that.
One. Sorry.
One of those soundtracks that like again pops up in my head relatively regularly. Bright colours and general insanity.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've had fun wandering around that again.
So it's so funny to like hear of a video game that I've just never heard of, literally never heard of ever, and I'm like,
stick with me, kid. Yeah, I freaking love that game. I should talk about that game at some point. Anyway, I will make a mental note of that. So yeah,
you've got a pen,
No, I know. I'll get around to it. To be continued, I think, when it comes to the Analogue 3D. To be continued. Yeah. But initial signs are positive. F-Zero GX.
Yes, sorry. Go for it.
Before I forget why I'm here.
Yeah.
So yeah, looks good. Moves fast. Very fast. And I think this was probably one of the... Well, hang on. Let me go back a step. So, came out on the GameCube, was very closely related to the arcade version that came out, to the extent that you could take your memory card and put that in the arcade machine, like unlock extra bits and all this kind of stuff. If you could find an arcade machine, which apparently outside of Japan are very hard to come by.
I just like the idea of it though. Like,
yeah,
I love when shit like that happens. It's never going to happen to me in real life, but the fact that it could.
Yeah, but like even the back of the box on the PAL version is like, you could do this. I'm like, can I?
No, I can't.
Are you sure?
Next flight to Osaka.
Well, yeah. But some bright spark managed to work out that like you could use like an action replay to maybe not like fully unlock the arcade mode on the GameCube version, but like give it an arcade mode overlay and kind of play it like with the arcade settings and stuff like that, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
The reason that I mention all this stuff on the box is that I think in the manual, if not on the back of the box, one or the other, it mentions about playing it with a wheel, like a steering wheel. And going in and playing it, it just feels to me like it's tuned for a racing wheel rather than the GameCube controller.
Okay.
So like it feels very twitchy with the analog stick, and because you've got the analog shoulder buttons as well for your kind of air brakes and stuff like that, everything feels somehow simultaneously twitchy and weirdly spongy and loose on the controller, because the controller is, by its design, kind of loose.
Yeah, it's so interesting that like, so the question is, not necessarily might be the case, but it's almost like, was it designed just to be like, like it'd be great to just have a wheel with this the whole time?
It's like, just get the impression, especially considering its arcade version as well,
exactly,
which would have had something like that, and the fact that it mentions having a wheel as part of the, getting started with the game and all that kind of stuff, and it makes it a bit of a big deal out of the fact that you can use it. Like, it just, there's something about it where I'm like, yeah, I feel like I would feel more in control of it if I was using a wheel. And that was like, it wasn't a deal breaker for me, but once I saw it like that, I couldn't unsee it.
Yeah.
And it started to get a little bit frustrating because, like, you're moving so fast and these vehicles are so agile, and the tracks, certainly compared to the N64 game, are very twisty, like technical tracks. There's a lot more in the way of hazards that you have to worry about. It started to get a bit frustrating. So on F-Zero X, when you get blown up or fall off the track, you lose a life and you have to restart the track if you're in the Grand Prix.
Yeah.
This game keeps that system. Now, I never really found it too frustrating in F-Zero X. On this game, I found it incredibly frustrating. Because regularly I would get to the same track and struggle on the same set of corners and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And this is not a memorization issue because I knew damn well that these corners were coming.
It's coming now.
And yet, there was just something in the way that I either had the acceleration versus maximum speed set up, or something.
So all that kind of thing's still the same then? That is
a lot of
I've played, that is alluded to F-Zero X, but I've never played GX before.
A lot of the basic mechanics are very, very similar. I think because you've got a couple more buttons on the controller, or at least a couple more easily reached buttons on the controller. Things like spinning attack and stuff like that are a little bit easier to do because it's just assigned to a button. That's kind of the only real difference. But the point is that control-wise, it just felt to me like there was always something that I was missing. And I don't mean it controls badly. It doesn't. But I just didn't feel as in control as perhaps I could. And I don't think that's necessarily completely a me issue. It largely is, and as I mentioned in the last episode, that's because I was ill and routinely zoning out in this weird flow state, and then this corner would suddenly pop up. Or like, there's this one particular section where you'd be in a pipe, or it'd be a half pipe, but the part of it that was open versus the part of it that was the pipe would switch partway through, and so like the closed
my brain
part
just like dropped,
exactly
dropped out there.
The closed part of the pipe would go from the bottom to the top, like very gradually as a kind of curve. So the open bit, by definition, would go the other way. And so if you were caught in the wrong bit of it when it was kind of crossing from one to the other, it was very easy to just get flung off. And that was on a straight fucking line, and I was just zoning out on that. So there was more than once where I nearly got caught out because everything was quite fast and all this kind of stuff. So I guess you could, I get the impression that you could get used to it and you could grow to love it. I didn't spend enough time with it to get to that point. I spent enough time with it to start getting wound up by a couple of the tricks that the tracks were pulling and stuff like that. Like one where there's a jump right next to a right-angled corner that, if you're not paying attention, just sends you straight off the track. If you are paying attention, can become a handy shortcut. But it's all moving so fast that I wasn't.
Is there any part of you thinking that
it's a young man's game?
No, I was never said that to you. Not on the podcast. Is there any part of you thinking that some of the frustrations that you're experiencing now is one of the reasons that F-Zero doesn't exist kind of as a current entity?
Oh, that's interesting. I don't think so. I think, well, I don't know how this sold. So I don't know what the return on investment for anybody was. This one was also at least co-developed, if not completely developed, by Sega, which, like, I think that arcade pedigree shows here. It feels like an F-Zero arcade game would feel. But I think that was happening just as the arcades were starting to die a death. So I can imagine that, that it may
Outrun
not
2
have...
was doing it at that time, though. To be honest, that is
yeah, but how many Outruns have we had since?
Yeah, exactly. So this is maybe that is the point.
I
Maybe
think there's a bit of a pattern.
Yeah.
See also Crazy Taxi and all this. There's a bunch of them from a very similar era when it comes to driving games and arcade driving.
Yeah.
That just seem to have dropped out the bottom of things.
Now you've mentioned Crazy Taxi as well. That was so you were talking about, for me, and I know this is sacrilege, that is in for a lot of people and stuff. I didn't really get on with Crazy Taxi that much on home consoles, and you probably experienced that feeling from me when I was talking about the PSP port as well, that I was like, whereas I really like the arcade one because it feels like the way that car handles feels like you have to play on a wheel, to me personally. And
yeah. And this is simple. In fact, that kind of twitchiness of the cab as it hurtles around like a hairpin corner and stuff like that. Actually, now you mention it, there are quite a few similarities in how.
Just when you were talking about it, I was like, oh yeah, that's how I felt about that.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from, and I do wonder if there's perhaps a little bit of shared DNA there. That would explain quite a lot, in all honesty. But yes, that working on that assumption. That would be the case. But so when you kind of start, like, especially for a racing game where, modes wise, you've got Grand Prix still, you've got Versus, you've got Time Attack. There's a story mode, which I will come to in a minute. But the point is that, like, ultimately you are there to be on a track, preferably going forwards. And negotiating corners and your opponents, and if you just have that little seed of doubt as to how it's handling or how you're dealing with the handling, I think you are off on a bad start with it, right? And that was the kernel of, like, that little nagging doubt of, like, do I think this is an 8 out of 10 like F-Zero X just for different reasons, or do I think it's a 7 out of 10? It's that fine margin. And that little doubt is the reason that I'm probably going to give it the score that I give it at the end. But anyway, so you can customize your we'll call it a vehicle.
Hovercraft.
Sled. I don't know. Like
pod.
Whatever.
I don't know.
So that's kind of cool, and you can create your own emblem and all that kind of stuff for it. Didn't muck about with it too much because you can use tickets to buy different parts or unlock them on the arcade, non-existent arcade mode version, and all that kind of stuff. Similarly, you have to, for the story, you get the first chapter, which is a cutscene, and then you have like a little mission where, it's a training thing. You're Captain Falco, and you have to go around the track collecting flags and collect 25 of them across 3 laps or whatever within a time limit. And then you get greeted with a cheery message saying you have to go to the shop to buy chapter 2.
Oh, okay.
And you have to buy it with tickets that you've earned in, I think I got some from the story mode, but to be honest with you, I was doing so badly. It wasn't many. And then I was in the Grand Prix mode and finished the first cup on the easiest difficulty level and got some more tickets, but not enough to buy the second chapter of the story mode.
I've just got in my head now, like, as in, like Falco, but in Smash Brothers, when it's like Falco punch, like, it's just like Falco shop. Like,
basically,
Falco baked beans.
And I ended up with this weird situation where I'm like, okay, so I'm not good enough to win the easiest cup on the easiest difficulty level. I'm not good enough at the story mission that I do have to get more tickets. So I'm just going to have to replay the same cup over and over again until I can get more tickets to buy the second chapter of the story mode. And suddenly you're staring down this long, grindy barrel of this, grindy gun.
Yeah.
And you just have that other little nagging doubt of, like, I'm not sure I'm here for this version of F-Zero.
Oh, okay.
And like, don't get me wrong. Again, if you were halfway good at the game, I seriously doubt it would be as much of a problem. If I sat and spent significant time with it, I seriously doubt this would be a significant issue. You would get past it reasonably quickly. I'm relatively sure of that. But my point is that, the original F-Zero X was clearly designed with replaying various cups on different difficulties in mind.
Yeah.
Here, that also seems to be the case, but it is tied to the earning of those tickets to get more parts, to get more bits of the story, to do this, that, the other, and basically unlock various bits of the game. And apparently when you, I think it's complete the hardest cup on the hardest difficulty, then you unlock the arcade mode tracks or something like that as well. So like there's incentive, but at the same time, it feels like it's doing a lot of gatekeeping. That's
a lot, to get there.
Yeah, so like I'm just kind of not up for that. And at least like F-Zero X gives you the toys, right? And I mean, yeah, there's stuff to unlock. Of course there is. But like, it doesn't feel like it's holding stuff back nearly as much.
Is that just a sign of the times, though? Is that not just something that I feel like you kind of experience on racing games to extend them more like, in the PS2, GameCube era?
I think it's that pretty. I think it's a pretty prime example of you've got the arcade version for your immediate quick fix.
Yeah.
Oh, we're making a home port. Oh, we need to give it longevity and all that and replayability somehow. How about this?
Yeah.
And I think that was the idea they settled on, rather than just trusting that people would want to play the shit out of it.
Yeah.
Which is one of those ironies of like arcade type games that is always lost on me, because like gameplay's king, right?
Yeah.
So surely you just want people to have the toys and play it and replay it and replay it, rather than have to replay it and replay it and replay it.
I'm trying to think what racing games nowadays are more often, whether or not they are. And it sounds stupid, but I feel like they've been split into two groups now, where kart racers, there's progression, but it's pretty easy progression to unlock whatever you want, and then you play the shit out of it.
Yeah.
And then you get the Sims, where the simulators, not the Sims game, but Sims racing, but the simulator racing games where they're more progression and grindy to kind of do something different. Almost in my head, I don't know. That might be simplification. I don't know, but
quite possibly. But I mean, like,
I think one's Gran Turismo and one's Mario Kart, for example. It's almost like
but this, you start looking at it like that, and this feels like that kind of odd middle ground where it's trying to figure out a way that it can be in that middle ground, and it just doesn't quite stick the landing. Or at least it didn't for me. I can see why somebody would love it. I know I always say this, but I do genuinely mean it. Because I'm there. Like I'm so close to really liking this game.
Well, you're not saying it's not a recommendation.
No,
it's
absolutely a recommendation. And like, full disclosure, when I'm better, I fully intend to go back and like try and play it. You know, when I've had a couple of cups of coffee and I'm awake, you know, and the full moon's out and all that kind of stuff. So like, yeah, it's. I was ready to be like bowled over by it and fall head over heels in love with it and sit here and confidently go, no, this is easily way better than any Wipeout game I've ever played and all that kind of stuff. And I think in my heart of hearts, like, I could grow to love it. I do see that. I could be sitting here however long removed from now and confidently go, yeah, you know what, it's clicked. I get it now. I've managed to work out what I needed to work out to get on board with it. But as it is at the moment, there's just something about it that doesn't quite click for me. And that's all it is. Like, it's, I genuinely think it's a me problem, not an it problem.
Yeah.
But you never know. It could be an it problem.
We're here to talk about us problems. That's what we're here to do.
I mean, so prime example, right? Where I was banging on about the steering wheel and stuff like that, right? Let's assume I'm right. That'd be a first. But like, let's assume I'm right, and let's assume that you plug a steering wheel in and you muck about with, you know, some of the easier bits, and you're like, oh yeah, no, this is what the handling is missing. How the fuck you're meant to spin a steering wheel quick enough to get around some of these corners? I will never know. Unless it is calibrated that you, like, the smallest movement is gonna, you know, give you enough. But that's the kind of disconnect that in thinking that I can't quite wrap my head around.
Well, the home console port, like arcade wheel, is completely different from the one that you play in the arcade, you can, because it's fixed to the cab, you can spin it really quickly.
Yeah.
Whereas like at home, if you have like a steering wheel, that just doesn't move anything like those ones.
Yeah, I mean, some of them nowadays arguably might.
Well, yeah,
but like,
obviously, yeah.
But that's nowadays.
Yeah, not
2003
no.
on a GameCube.
Yeah.
Really? You sure? Like that's going to be held to a desk with like suction cups if you're lucky.
Fucking suction cups.
So like, yeah, and that's my point. Like there just seems to be a kind. I hate to say it's as broad a thing as a design misstep.
Yeah.
Because I'm not a games designer. Ultimately, at the end of the day, they still sold more copies of F-Zero GX than I have.
you don't know that.
No, I do. I'm reasonably confident in saying that. They designed a finished game. I haven't.
Hey, look, we'll go back to that Pico 8 one. It was a good idea.
Me and coding. But like
me and coding.
I can't do it. I'm terrible at it. But anyway, like but it just feels like I'm missing a trick with it.
Yeah,
Is what it feels like. So I think on balance, I'm going to give it a 7.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I don't know, call it the year-end audit or something like that. I could easily see this going up to a 9 or something like that.
Okay.
Like it's that sort of like I don't know, sense of unease, I guess, about like what I'm seeing in this game versus what I think is there.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
reserve the right.
Yeah,
reserve the mulligan.
File it under want to like it more than I currently like it. Yeah, currently being the important word there.
Yeah. It's interesting because I genuinely I've obviously read reviews of it previously and seen that it's been quite glowing, but I've not heard anybody talk about it, and in the kind of certainly the depth that you have there, and there wasn't at the moment anything there that it was making me think that that's going to necessarily change. But it'd be interesting to know, where you spent more time and you're not asleep at the fucking wheel. Like the people who are listening to this podcast better not be. Yeah,
I think it's probably a good one for the comments.
Yeah,
and I'd be really curious to, if anybody's out there listening that hasn't just wrapped their car around a lamppost, to
get your phone out and comment.
Yeah, not now. Pull over.
Comment away.
Shut the engine
pull
off.
Over. We've got so much sway as a shitty little amateur podcast. Guys, pull over your car at the next lay-by and comment.
In all seriousness, though, like, do comment at some point because I'm really, really curious. Like, because I've read glow reviews. I know plenty of people that are like, oh yeah, no, they didn't need to bring out another F-Zero after this one because it's the greatest one. And
no, you guys go ahead and comment on to the guy who doesn't fucking do any of the social media. It's fine. I'll do his PAing on this fucking commentary.
Fazz's phone blow up.
He knows how much I WhatsApp him, and he ignores me about those things. It's fine. Cool. Thank you for that. Really appreciate it. I really did because, like I said, not having grown up with Nintendo and stuff, it was really good to sort of see one of the premier racing. I guess series that from somewhere else that everybody's, I guess, lauded, and I've kind of played a little bit, but not enough. So it was cool to get a bit of a steer on that. Should we take something not now completely different, but it's certainly a bit different from
a little bit.
So it's not a racing game as the ones that we've done so far. It's not been like a stunt one. This is an open world one, and it's a big one. So Grand Theft Auto 3. The definitive edition. I'm not going to tell anybody anything new about Grand Theft Auto 3 here. Obviously, that is in. So it's probably one of the most well-known video games of all time, and I say that from a point of view that. So I was very careful with those words. The two things I want to talk about, or at least kind of get to the bottom of, and I've gone through the lens of the definitive edition, and. Because I thought it was just the easiest way for me to play the game nowadays. Even though I've got my PlayStation... Well, I'll say that. I've got my PlayStation 2 copy. I could have just got my PlayStation 2 out. I didn't. The definitive edition at the time was on PS Plus. And I just picked up a PS5 and I was right, I'm just going to fucking play GTA 3. It's here. I've got an itch to play GTA 3. The 6th edition isn't coming until, whenever. Hopefully November this year. And I was like... I've seen a lot, I would say... in the, I don't know, is it the discourse? You sort of say, I don't know, general internet about how influential or important Grand Theft Auto 3 is as a video game. So I want to know how influential it is. And I've got it in my head, and I always have this combative, what is that the word? The feeling in my stomach.
Depends on the rest of the sentence.
Yeah, correct me or don't. Feeling in my stomach where people say, "Oh, what's your favorite Grand Theft Auto?" And hardly anybody ever says GTA 3. Now, in my head, I'm like, it's my favorite Grand Theft Auto, and some people do say that. A lot of people say Vice City. And then a lot of people say, well, definitively it's probably San Andreas, and then a lot of people say Grand Theft Auto 4. And do you know what I mean? Like, I would say if you said of all the Grand Theft Autos, it'd be the one that would be voted the least for best Grand Theft Auto game, apart from 1 and 2, obviously, in the the top down ones. How do you feel about me saying that out loud?
No, I think that probably tallies with what I would have thought. I have it pegged as most people saying Vice City, though.
Yeah.
Personally, I've always gone 4, probably closely followed by San Andreas.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. But yeah, that's not to take anything away from 3.
Yeah.
I just think it was surpassed pretty quickly.
This is all that. It's always, I think, that people kind of go, oh yeah, but 3 was so important, and I'm going to talk about why it was important. That is in when I've researched a little bit more. This is probably the game on the podcast, 145 episodes in, that I feel most confident being able to talk about without any notes. If I was just talking about the game, but I'm trying to talk about all the different facets of the game that make me feel like why it is the most one of the most influential video games of all time. And also the other question I kind of is, did you have to be there? That's something that I see kind of floating out a little bit, and maybe something where you just go, you just had to be there for it to be a really great video game. How many people had Vice City as probably their first Grand Theft Auto in an open world 3D, maybe didn't pick up GTA 3, or maybe played it a little bit, and actually Vice City was their first one, and that's why that's the one that kind of captures all the imagination. Plus, you would go back to 3 and go, well, there's a lot less content here, lot less fun, like as in the you would definitely say, certainly from, you've got a licensed soundtrack as well. And that kind of never really looked back. I think from Vice City.
I think for me, like, the soundtrack would have been the thing that I would have pointed at and gone, and I think that was the thing that elevated it for a lot of people.
Well, I was listening to, like, it came on my Spotify the other day, Video Killed the Radio Star.
Yeah.
And I was like, I know that song from Vice City. Yeah. I know I Ran by the Seagulls from Vice City. Yeah. And it's like, and so many people, those songs will have had a brand new lease of life because of that video game.
Yeah.
And you can't say that for anything on Grand Theft Auto 3. That, from a cultural zeitgeist point of view, I will definitely come back to that point, though, because the reason I enjoyed GTA 3 so much is because of the audio aspect of the radio and how it worked. And GTA 3 is definitely that bridge between GTA 1 and 2. I mean, this sounds very obvious when you say it out loud, but and the rest of the Grand Theft Auto series. And this is almost like the proof of concept sort of thing. So to talk about the influential point. So just the little bit around it and why I think it was, and I didn't really think about this until I sort of researched it. So DMA Designs, they brought, just before being bought by Take-Two, and Rockstar actually produced it, but it wasn't made like under the same sort of umbrella. It was the guys that had made Grand Theft Auto 1 and 2. But they kind of, like, for a long time, they'd wanted to bring GTA to 3D, and it was actually meant to be a Dreamcast game, and it was produced to start off with as a Dreamcast game. Then they sort of thought that it wouldn't really work necessarily. So then they tried to market it to Xbox as an exclusive, who said no. And then it became a PS2 game. How much did that matter in the... Right, this sounds like, that it's a very strong statement. Is that possibly one of the most important points of video game history? Because if you think about the PlayStation 2 in 2001 and that getting Grand Theft Auto 3 like exclusively for a little while. Certainly, I think it was a year before it got to Xbox. And Dreamcast obviously, dive bombed as well. That kind of towards that point there where it was like, Dreamcast was like starting to sort of like go down. So by 2002, to think that I think so. I've got this in my notes. Like the 7th best selling game in 2001 and 2002. It was released in November 2001, I think it was, and it was still the 7th best selling game that year.
Yeah.
And it just feels like, I don't know. I feel like that was the moment where you kind of like, you're like, a PlayStation 2 can do this. That is in, even though it's not meant to be as powerful as an Xbox. And I don't know, it felt like, even though it became Grand Theft Auto, you could play it everywhere, at that moment for a year, GTA 3 was a thing. Do you know what I mean? And I remember it being a massive thing for me.
So, if I may,
please do. Yeah,
couple of bits to throw.
I'm not saying that is just a point I'm kind of throwing out there, like
because
to have the discussion.
I hope. Yeah, well, I'm kind of chewing it over while I'm talking, so this is going to go all over the place. But a couple of things. The first, let's call it 3 things, right? To try and so that I can try and keep track.
Do I need to write this down?
No, it's all right. It's cool. I got it. So the first thing is that in my head, you've basically got Grand Theft Auto 3, and then suddenly, like, you remember, like, if you're renting stuff on the Mega Drive or whatever, the kind of default game was like a kind of action adventure platformer type deal.
Yeah.
In my head, you've got Grand Theft Auto 3 comes out, and then suddenly over time, the default game, if you like, the kind of archetypal, standard, basic, middle of the Venn diagram, what a video game is, for most people becomes open world 3D.
Yeah.
Bits of stealth, bits of shooting, icons on a minimap kind of thing, with some kind of traversal. Second of all, as for being there, I distinctly recall a friend of mine pre-ordering. Did he pre-order it or did he just order it? Either way, he had a PS2 coming. I mean, we were far too young to be getting Grand Theft Auto 3, but secure a copy of Grand Theft Auto 3 he somehow did.
Yeah.
But it turned up far before the console did, and even then, I just
holding onto the
yeah. We were sitting there, we were reading the box, reading the manual, reading the box again, looking at the screenshots, all that kind of stuff.
Screenshots I remember the screenshots of the protagonist. I'm not even going to call him Claude right now, but like he's called Claude. But like is in seeing him stood, his model like against the backdrop of Liberty City on the back of that box. It's so vivid to me.
Yeah, exactly. And like there was, even by that point, and I don't think it was relatively far after it had originally come out, it was already kind of earning mythic status, and I don't recall another game ever doing that. But by the time that he did get his console, we were playing the shit out of that game, and like taking it in turns, and to like go cause chaos and get killed and all that kind of stuff, and like be up basically all night playing this friggin' thing. And big groups of us as well. And so I think there was definitely that element of like, holy shit, this is a big jump from like PS1, N64, like, damn, it can do that. And then that kind of brings me to my third point, like, and you saying about the historical significance and all that kind of stuff, and is it the most important point? I have like, knowing what I know now and looking back and all that kind of stuff, I'm inclined to say I agree with you, but we do have to give a little bit of a shout out to Body Harvest on the N64, which, DMA did and had a chance to hone what they were doing with larger worlds and moving around in them and picking up vehicles to drive around and stuff like that. It's not open world, but like it's got bigger environments than a lot of other things and all that kind of stuff. So like it definitely feels like there is, with the benefit of hindsight, more of a progression to get to Grand Theft Auto 3 than it just being like a kind of flash in the pan type thing. But nonetheless, Body Harvest did not become a cultural icon like Grand Theft Auto did. So, it's I'm still inclined to agree with you.
I mean, I wasn't trying to put a crown on quite to the contrary, that is in. So I'm actually, that is in, not to jump towards the end of the review, and it's not going to go that way, like as in like horrendously, but I'm killing a darling a little bit here. Like you'll find a little bit as I go through it, almost that. Yeah, you'll see. Anyway, it's all you'll hear. But like, yeah, it just around that time. I mean, so I didn't even know this as well. So I was like, and I just thought about it and I kind of researched it in a 3-week period. And I still think I must be wrong about this, but I've researched it and I've fucking written it down. Four games that got released with each other in a 3-week period. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3, Grand Theft Auto 3, Metal Gear Solid 2, and Devil May Cry all came out in a 3-week period of each other. Can you fucking imagine like that happening now? Like, as in those,
because they would all avoid each other in the schedules, wouldn't they? Like, look at Grand Theft Auto and how everything rejigged as soon as it got delayed.
It's wild. That is in, and it just and rightly so they would avoid each other, because I know that, for example, I've played all 4 of those games now, and they're all probably up there in like a top 10 sort of, maybe, well, like is in certainly up in the top echelon for me, all of them. But I didn't own Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 when it came out, even though 2 was like one of my favourite games, and probably I kind of say it's like one of my favourite games of all time, like is in a Devil May Cry, because you just can't afford to, like is in, as a kid of 13, 14, like is in, paper round can only pay so much, like, but certainly, yeah, it's just amazing just to think that there was a period of time where that was all happening, kicking off, like as in, yeah, they'll have all slid to different consoles and stuff, and I'm not, and again, this is just because this was from my point of view and my view, and I had the PlayStation 2, but God, that just felt like such an era of gaming where there was just such fertile ground, just to think that, you could turn it any which way and go, this, you didn't know at the time, but you were playing some of the best games that'll ever be made ever, like, in terms of how they feel to you, I guess, really. So that was just an interesting thing that just kind of kicked off in my head. And I was like, and then another thing that, talking about something being the first of it, not the first, like you said about Body Harvest, but certainly the first that was like a cultural icon of its type of genre. Like, I was thinking about how you kind of go, right, well, maybe Grand Theft Auto isn't the best of the bunch. Sorry, 3 is the best of the bunch anymore. But, like, people still reference Doom as, like, the first-person shooter. Maybe not the first one of its kind, but certainly the one that you kind of think of as a cultural kicking off
archetypical
point.
type,
And then I'm like, so that kind of feels like the Grand Theft Auto 3 of first-person shooting. And I don't know, just sort of like a bit of a, like, I'm trying to generalise at a point for the podcast that I read that's right or wrong, ladies, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, it's okay.
I would disagree with that personally.
Why?
Because Doom still plays really, really, really fucking well.
Okay.
And GTA 3 kind of doesn't.
Okay.
Last I tried it.
Yeah, fair enough.
The definitive edition, made some sensible changes to the controls.
Yeah.
But like, if you left the 2 games in front of me, I'm playing Doom. All day. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Yeah. I'm kind of on the fence about that. Like, as in, I enjoy them both, but like, as in,
I enjoy them both. Yeah. But like, in terms of pure like moving a character around the world and interacting with it, Doom's mechanics and controls still hold up.
Yeah. And I'm thinking of something more recently as well. Like, so PUBG, that is that is like one of the best selling games of all time, and it kicked off the battle royale scene, like as a cultural thing. Again, it wasn't necessarily, I don't know if it was or wasn't, but certainly that was like the one that was like seen as the initial sort of battle royale. And now you're thinking that you've got your Fortnite and you've got your Warzone and everything that seems to release, like the Battlefield freeze, everything seems to release with a battle royale mode. And that's almost like, but if I go back and play PUBG now, and it's only like sort of, I was playing it like 7-8 years ago, like regularly, that isn't that when it was in its pomp, and it's almost like, so yeah, that's super influential, but like as in you wouldn't pick it to be the one. Yeah, exactly. And that's where I kind of see GTA 3 almost in my head. That maybe that's a better comparison.
All right.
So it's hard. It is hard to kind of say, like, and I kind of mix a lot of nostalgia in my stomach, I think, really, with that 2001 period of thinking about all the memories I've got of playing with friends. Like playing Grand Theft Auto 3 and sort of seeing, and this happened to me when I was playing the Definitive Edition recently, that is, and so I'll come back to this point, actually, because the Definitive Edition, it launched with loads of bugs, and I can totally see why people were so fucked off with this edition, because you're thinking, if you look at what a lot of the remakes have done within recently, and then you kind of see how like Mafia, for example, like as in what they did for Mafia from 2002, I think it was, to now, and what I played, the other month and thought was how it looked incredible. For them to do the Grand Theft Autos of 2001, 3 and 5 dirty and do nothing to them really, just kind of round off the characters so they look a bit cartoonish and
change the lighting so it's all wrong.
Yeah, exactly. All that kind of stuff where you just sort of think, I can see why people are going, I paid full price for this, plus bugs on top. It's just like, the good thing about playing it 4 years later after the definitive edition released, now, for me, was that all the bugs are gone at least. But all the glitches from 2001 are still there. Like, all the Grand Theft Auto 3 glitches are still there. Your vehicle... It ended up in the Staten Island. Was it Staten Island? In the tunnel roof. I'm driving through the tunnel roof the other week, and I'm like, I'm playing a video game where, that was. It shouldn't be acceptable. But in 2001, your friends are like, "Oh, it's a glitch! Oh my god, but it's awesome!" And everyone's like, just like laughing about it. Or the dodo flies through a building somehow that it should have crashed into and stuff. Like these little moments that I just remember. I'm mixing them in with the influence of the game for me to, or at least I was before I played it again, to think this is my favourite Grand Theft Auto, probably.
Have I ever mentioned the aside of how I got published in N64 magazine?
No.
So you just mentioning about going out of bounds in Grand Theft Auto. The only time I ever got published in a magazine was I sent in a tip to N64 magazine for the Grand Theft Auto game on the Game Boy Color.
Oh, okay.
Because I realised that if you drove off you could drive off the side of one of the bridges and just be above all the buildings and effectively go out of bounds on a Grand Theft Auto.
That's amazing.
Game Boy Color game.
That's enough qualified to have a podcast. That's
there you go.
Tips to Rich.
Only time I got in a magazine.
That's a new segment. Oh, brilliant!
But I can never remember what issue it was. Otherwise, I would track it down.
Do you know what? That's the segment, but the tip is always the same fucking tip.
I'll just use this one.
That's what I mean. Yeah, exactly. Just keep you using this one. What you got for us this week, Rich? Well, so yeah, just to kind of touch on those few points then about what makes the definitive edition kind of a bit weird and kooky then, and when they say weird and kooky, almost like the bits that people didn't like. So you spoke about the lighting and stuff being a bit odd and wrong. Certainly for Grand Theft Auto 3 compared to Vice City and San Andreas, and I noticed that it says, you can kind of quality of life checkpoints, but there's no real quality of life checkpoints for GTA 3. As in, you just end up starting the mission back again. But the thing that is the quality of life is that rather than you dying and being wasted and going to the hospital, it starts you back at the mission, which actually saves a shitload of time.
Yeah.
So I looked up how long it takes to complete Grand Theft Auto 3, again, on how long to beat, and it was 15 hours. But I went through the entire story, all the story missions, 50 of them, in about 7.5 this time round, because of all the crap that you cut out by just being able to start the mission again. Plus, I also used the cheats, which is what I've got this down as something where you couldn't earn trophies if you typed in the cheats.
Right.
The fact that they keep the cheats in the definitive editions as they were, and and this is going to piss a lot of people off. Certainly, maybe it won't piss people off. Maybe it's talking about the cheats for Grand Theft Auto. L2, R1, R2, and then up, down, left, right, etc. They, for me as a gamer, are as important as the Konami code is possibly for people of a certain generation, I think. As in, they were the ones that I'd written down once and then I fucking memorized them. Do you know what I mean? It's just and I could remember the weapon cheat. I went back to this and remembered the weapon cheat without having to look at it again. Now I can't. Then I was like, what's the armor cheat? And it's R2, and then it's L1, L2, and then I was like, all right, and it's up, down, up, down, up, down. And the annoying thing is, I was like, even the cheats are fucking janky in GTA 3. If you want to put a weapon cheat in, you have to press the buttons that actually end up being the buttons that fire a weapon. So you end up putting a weapon cheat in, and then you end up start flamethrowing people in the fucking street. And you're like, I didn't want to do that. I was trying to get some more weapons and shit. It's just you're just there burning half the neighborhood trying to get more weapons, and your fucking wanted levels going up. You're like, no, I didn't want this to happen. I need the wanted cheat now to put it all down. But I put them in because I was like, that's how I remember playing the game 25 years ago. So I always played with cheats on. And it's a sort of first time where cheats were almost... like acceptable to be part of the game. That is, it's not like so like the developers made them so widely available and so much fun. That is in, you know, to fly a fucking tank and stuff and things like that. It's almost like it wasn't about, you know, cheats being bad. It was like cheats are good and they're fun and don't worry about using them.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So and that was something again that made it, I think for me, certainly trying to use the right words here, something of a very memorable game. That's the first time I remember that being a thing for me.
Yeah, that's a fair point actually, because I think I'm probably in the same boat, because many's the time that those pass the controller kind of sessions with your friends, like you're going to be turning on weapons cheese, you're going to be making the army come after you or whatever, you're going to make a tank fly, and all that kind of stuff.
I think in terms of like difficulty of the game, certainly, if you would say 13, 14 at the time, like it's hard to complete without cheats. Like just because of the way that the game works in terms of the money situation. So I remember there being a real big difficulty spike where bomb the base is, where you kind of go from when you're going to leave the first island, and you have to help 8-Ball get onto the boat to plant a bomb. And then I found a hack where it was almost like, actually, so you're expected to use a sniper rifle, but why can't I use the rocket launcher? And I was like, well, I just buy a rocket launcher, and then I just bought loads of rockets and just fucking blew up everybody with the rocket launcher on the ship. And I was like, why didn't I think of that when I was younger? Like, as in, you know, but then I probably just used a cheat at some point just to get past it. But I remember that takes up like, this is where like the quality of life stuff comes in for the definitive edition. Like it costs like 100 grand to buy the bomb to do the next part of bomb the base, and you probably only have 250 grand by that point. And it's almost like you'd save it, and then you'd have to just come back to the save every single time. And I remember a couple of times maybe like, you know, my save like crapped out or something like that on the memory cards, like, you know, fucking formatting. I'm like, oh god, that's so annoying. That is in. Whereas at least this time round, that is in. Because you just go back to the start of the mission and you don't die. That is, and you don't lose all that money and stuff. But just these little memories that are just like kind of like sparking off in my head and stuff, that I just have so many specific memories attached to this game, and that is nostalgia. That is that, you know, that isn't just, and
it's the best sort of multiplayer, non-multiplayer game that I ever played. I think now I'm saying it. Because I don't recall doing that with anything else. You know, playing a single player with so many people.
Not. It might have happened at some point, but certainly that is in the most. I have so many memories about this. You know, and just thinking about how the game. So you made the point there about Doom and said you'd rather go back and play Doom. I think you're right. That is in. So this is where I was trying to get to the point about answering the question: did you have to be there? I think you did have to be there. Like, as in, for those moments where you're sitting there playing the single player multiplayer with your friends. And also like the things that are wrong with this game. That is in. So certainly, I mean, the gunplay is fucking awful. Like, it's just terrible, and it's not like wrong in the definitive edition necessarily. They just haven't corrected it, and it would have been great if they had done something with it. And that's the kind of thing that you should do with a definitive edition, like a remake sort of thing. That actually they should have made it easier to shoot people in a game where you have to shoot people. That is in. It's just you know. When we were speaking recently about Uncharted 1, all is fucking forgiven about, you know, the cover system in that game, that is in, because, you know, we were saying at the time, not much has probably done it beforehand, before Gears of War and Uncharted 1. Actually, 6 years down the road from GTA 3, that thing plays like a fucking, you know, like, it's just incredible compared to this. So, you know, you can see where the evolution goes from, but then GTA has always been a bit shit at shooting. That is, it's still not amazing. Like, it's better now in GTA 5, but there's no cover system or anything when you go back and play GTA 3. Nope. You have to stand behind your car to not get shotgunned by a pimp or something like that, and then the car just blows up in your face anyway. It's just like there's no sort of, I guess, mechanical way to be good at Grand Theft Auto. That is, and you just have to like look out on things or run people over and like, oh, you've killed that guy, but you were probably going to get out of your car and shoot with a pistol because you've just picked up a pistol from ammunition, and that was like part of the mission. Actually, I just ran him over with his car because I kept dying when I tried to shoot him. It's just like, you know, it'll just say, you know, mission complete. It doesn't care that you've done it in the stupid fucking way that you've done it. It just goes, oh yeah, you've done it. You know,
it's near enough.
Yeah, exactly. So the positive parts of that are that it adapts to that, and it has that real world, open world sort of way of thinking.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, and it accepts that, you know, it accepts you for who you are. It accepts you're going to use cheats. It accepts that you might have to run somebody over because you're not very good at the game. But then it also doesn't do anything to help that in the first place. That is, if it wants you to use guns, then make it so that you actually can use guns rather than firing off the fucking machine gun to the sky, the one thing you fire down the reticle with. What else? I know I'm all over the place with this, but this is how the game makes me feel. Like, as in, it's almost like,
I mean, the game itself is covering a lot of bases, isn't it?
Yeah. I never got bored traversing the map on this one. So there's barely any detail in this one. I can understand why people don't like this compared to, say, Vice City, and certainly San Andreas, where you get a little bit more detail, a little bit more depth to the game, and you can go and do things with CJ in San Andreas that are more than just the main stories. Whereas this is just kind of like, so you've got 50 main story missions, you've got some RC car missions, you've got a couple of side sort of missions, some racing missions and things, but apart from that, that's it. So again, it's a dual hand sort of thing. Lack of detail, but, you know, from a negative way, but lack of detail from a positive way. We talked about Ubisoft and their fucking icons all over the map on the previous one. You barely have any on this. You just have what you need, and you can you get to learn. Again, negative. You kind of like get to know this city really, really well. Like, as in too well, probably. But then on the positive side of things is that you can learn every nook and cranny and be really, really good at, like, I guess when it comes to harder missions and stuff, you'll know when to pull a handbrake on that certain corner because you've been around it 300 times before and stuff like that. And it's like, so you really, because of the size of the map and the lack of detail, you learn the roads super well, and it's almost, and you learn all the handling on the cars really well because you kind of have this certain pool of cars that you know you're going to go and get in. You know, you know you're not going to go and get what the fuck's the racing car with the stripe down called?
The Banshee.
Thank you very much, Banshee. I'm going to go get a Sentinel rather than a Banshee because I know that I'm going to just flip a Banshee in seconds and stuff. And it's like,
oh yeah, they were nightmares. Yeah, weren't they?
And the Definitive Edition, you kind of get the handling is just like insane, and the brakes on the Definitive Edition are like, honestly, it's like hitting a fucking concrete wall. You just tap the brakes. It's just like they've went too far on that. So that is annoying. The radio then. So then this is the other thing that I attach myself to, and this is why this was my Grand Theft Auto rather than, say, Vice City or San Andreas and stuff. Don't get me wrong, licensed music, amazing, and that Vice City soundtrack, that 80s soundtrack, is incredible, so good, and I remember so many songs from it, and they've become songs that I listen to now. I didn't know, for example, Flashback at the time, Flashback FM, were all songs from the Scarface soundtrack, for example. That is in, and honestly, like, I just legitimately, unironically, now listen to Flashback FM, the 5 songs, all the time. Like, as in at work, I'll be sat listening to Flashback FM. I will sit and listen to Chatterbox FM, Laszlo and Fernando, Novo Dos, like, as in all that kind of stuff. Like, as in the amount of times, just the amount of driving you do, messing around with your friends and stuff. Like, you know, and the adverts, that is in, so petsovernight.com. Like, going on the internet at school when I wasn't on the porn, like, to go and try petsovernight.com. And there's a website. There was a website for petsovernight.com. You know, so try and buy Pogo the monkey. Like, you know, like the advert. And this is the forethought that they had. Liberty City Survivor. Like, as in, you know, Liberty City Survivor. Oh, yeah. Like, as in, you know, all these criminals have been let out. And I'm like, what? Oh, this is just like real life. This will be happening in 10 years' time, where criminals are let out to shoot each other. Like, you know, like,
almost the plot of Manhunt.
Yeah, exactly, Johnny. Yeah. Just like all that kind of stuff that just like, you know, you kind of think about that. You're like, oh, how many plots has this been for movies since then? Yeah. And then I go, is this not just GTA Online they're describing?
Yeah, that's the point.
Yeah, 2001, they're describing a thing that they're going to peddle for like 10 years, like, which is what people just are always on. I'm like, it's just like, but going back to it, sort of 25 years later, I just know every beat of the radios and certain channels and stuff. Where it's like, and even MSX, I think it's called FM, and then they have the song from GTA 1 on that. That's called like Grand Theft Auto, and I'm just like, oh god, I love that song so much. And then I'm like, and then I'll just be like driving around trying to get the right cycle of adverts and chat and stuff, and it's like, oh, is it the Liberty City Fair? The you know that there's in the revival fair, I think it is,
right,
where it's talking about like, you know, like talking about what are they called, this is bad for podcasting, that is in
but we're in it now.
Yeah. Oh my god, I'm just having so much fun talking about this game, but just all these audio cues that mean so much to me, and they've pushed so much other important shit out of my head, but like, as in, and just live there rent free all the time, like, as in, and you just like, and going back and reviving them for a little bit for like sort of the 8 hours that I played through the story of this was just it was just pure bliss. Do you know what I mean? Like, as in, the game kind of does play like shit, like it does, but the feelings I was having whilst I was playing this game, like, that's when it came to that sort of like thought process of like the couple of questions I kind of had. It probably is the most influential video game of all time for me, and also I think you had to be there, like, as in, to enjoy it for what it was at the time. I don't think you can. And I can understand if people now say, "Oh, I've heard Grand Theft Auto 3's," you know, like, I've never played Grand Theft Auto 3. I've only played San Andreas, for example. I've only played 4 or 5, and you know, I probably go back and see where it came from and kind of go, "Oh, is this it? Is this what it's all about?" And it's like, yeah, that is what it's all about. You know, the glitches, the people on the street. Oh my god, like Liberty City for GTA 3, like, is in, compared to pretty much any other game, like, is in. You can see where State of Emergency, the Rockstar sort of game, like, is in. It's more like that than it is any other Grand Theft Auto in terms of the characters. Like, I clipped a video from my PS5 where, when I was playing on it, where I'd just come out of Donald Love's tower for a mission, and because of the way I parked my car, like, in the game, it corralled about 40 people, all different random walks of life, kind of constantly knocking each other over, like people dying, like, as in cops all shooting each other and stuff, and just kind of like all barging into each other and like shouting all their catchphrases and stuff. I'm like, this is fucking amazing to watch. Like, I was stood there like a goldfish bowl for ages seeing what was happening, and then all I did at the end was got a flamethrower out and fucking killed a lot of them, and felt great about it. Like, it's just, I stood there and I was just like, what just happened? It was so much fun. Pick up all the green money that's on the floor and drove off. Just like, it's like, what game engine, like, is even experiencing, like, right now? And one last moment that just, like, you know, really sold it to me is something that, how fucked this game is, but how amazing it is at the same time. So I remember that I made it into a pay and spray halfway through. Like, it was a harder mission where the cars, for some reason in Definitive Edition, the cars, you ding them once, they're about to fucking blow up. Like, I don't know how they've remade the engine, but it's wrong. So it does make it a little bit more difficult. But there was a point where I'd done this mission. And you know, when you kind of get to the end of a mission, we talked about with Dirt Rally last year, where it's like you're doing a 20-minute rally and you hit the back of a fucking tractor, it's like, start again.
Yeah.
So you do this with Grand Theft Auto, where you do this really long mission, and it's like, oh, right, okay, oh shit, my car's on fire. I drove into a paint spray on fire, like, as in, but you know how you kind of have like sort of like a 5-second window,
yeah.
And I was just like, right, I'm just gonna pray that this is going to work. And I drove in, and lo and behold, oh, your car's fixed. And like, the funny thing is, the garage door for the ending the mission was right beside it, and I was like, that's amazing. That's so much. Just thank you so much, game, for being so shit and janky, but doing that also, like, it's making me feel good about it. And that's why I love this game so much. But in terms of giving it an arbitrary score in 2026, yeah, it's a 6 out of 10. It's down there, like, as in, you know, it's still a good game, like, as in, but it is definitely not
the most 10 out of 10, 6 out of 10.
It so is, that is in, you know, for what it's done for me, for video gaming, for me personally, yeah, it is in, you know, there's so many things about it, and that's why it'll always be, and I'll always kind of go in the corner of, I think it probably is my favorite Grand Theft Auto. The most fun I've had playing, or the best one I've had playing, was the one that I spoke about, which was the GTA 4, but the episodes of Liberty City, in terms of how well rounded off they are for me. But this will always be a thing for me, and yeah, and it's difficult to express that to somebody that's never played it before and go, oh well, I'm going to go back and play this game from 20 years ago, because they will see it and go, what are you talking about? Yeah, and I'm like, you won't get it. Of course you won't get it. Like, and I'm really sorry that is the case. I can't convey it any better than I'm doing right now on this podcast. That is in, and if that doesn't sell it, then fair enough. Do you know what I mean? It is what it is. But yeah, I just really want to go back because I just had all these sort of feelings about GTA 6 coming out and stuff now. So I'm going to play GTA 3 again, and it's come up, but it's on PS Plus, and I'm like, and I know I could play it on the PS2, but it's funny that the last kind of point I wanted to make was almost like you kind of look at, I think it's the top 10 PS2 games that are on Metacritic as like, and this comes up as a joint best rated PS2 game. So I think it's like along with Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3, funnily enough. They've both got the top spot, but if you look at the top 10 games, every single game has had a remake or a remaster, and this has got the worst version out of all of them. Like, as in, all the rest of them have had something special done to them to bring it back to being. And GTA 3 has been shit on by whoever Rockstar have agreed to do it with, and kind of like and to think that maybe could have been something better and more special, and you maybe would have some people going back nowadays and going, oh, I'm playing the GTA 3 remastered version, and they've done this with the gunplay, and they've done this with the gameplay, and it's amazing. But then would you lose the jank of the cars falling through the city and the fun of trying to fly the dodo? And
yeah, I can't help but think that if you were going to do something like that nowadays, it would basically end up like a kind of reskinned GTA 5.
Yeah,
and I think that is kind of too far removed from where it was. And so, I mean, I can't help but think that it was one of those games that all they really needed to do was spruce up the graphics, bump up the resolution a little bit, and make the control scheme a bit more standardized.
Yeah.
And that would have been enough. And even then, that they managed to screw various bits of that up.
I would have been one of the people though that would have been screaming and crying if they had changed, for example, the animation of where you would pick up a lady of the night, sit in a car down an alley, and you both just sat, you can see on the camera, you both just sat there in your respective chairs, but the car's rocking back and forward, and you're just losing money or whatever, and you're like, if that had gone out, I'd have been, whoa, what are we doing here? Like, it's not video gaming. Yeah, cool. Drive January. There we go. Not hashtag. Episode 2 done. Thank you for listening, guys.
Cheers.